Hi everyone and welcome back to EndlessEnglishNotes.com, where today we're going to be looking at Act 1 Scene 2 from Romeo and Juliet. Okay, so this is just a quick video just to recap on what you may have learned in each scene, and it's just to give you a few key pointers on what happened and a few key quotes. It'll just help you to remember overall what happened throughout the play. Sometimes as we move through the play we can forget what happened. So in this scene we're going to see again very much the culture of the time the play is set in comes to the fore. We look at Juliet, a proposal of marriage is made towards her, and how Capulet, her father, reacts to that. Okay, so we meet Capulet in Paris in this scene. On the streets of Verona, Capulet takes a walk with Paris, who is a noble kinsman of Prince Aeschylus. Okay, so Paris wants to marry Juliet. The fact that he is related, that's what a kinsman of Prince Aeschylus means there. So the fact he's related to Prince Aeschylus would be a huge benefit to Capulet when deciding who should marry his daughter. If Paris was to marry Juliet, it would allow him to be on more favourable terms with Prince Aeschylus. So here you see love was not one of the conditions or one of the main conditions in relation to marriage here. It was more about enhancing the family's reputation and basically getting favours from it. Okay, it's forming an alliance. Okay, anyone who's watched Game of Thrones or any of those type of shows set in that period will know that the importance of setting alliances through marriage. Okay, so that's what Capulet is basically doing here. Now, he's not all bad. Paris is seeking Capulet's approval for his daughter's hand in marriage. He tells Paris that he would be delighted to approve the marriage, but because Juliet is only 13, he will have to wait a while longer. Now, this is another thing that will shock audiences today. Okay, again, culture very, very different in today's world. 13-year-olds, it would be illegal for a 13-year-old to get married. So it just shows you the different cultures we're dealing with. Again, I told you in a previous video that it's important that you're able to contrast and compare how your own world is with the world that we're studying here. So this is very, very different. Okay, so and if you were writing about would you like to live in the world of the text, here you would say clearly not. If you were a young girl, that you may be asked by your father to get married at the age of 13. Now we see here that Capulet, he wants his daughter to marry Paris for reasons that I mentioned already, but he said she's a little too young. Okay. So he invites Paris to the masquerade feast he is holding that evening, which will give him a chance to woo Juliet. So it's important to Capulet that Juliet actually does like Paris. So a lot of fathers at that time may not have cared whether they liked them or not. It would have been a marriage of convenience, an arranged marriage, which would have helped the father. Okay, so a masquerade feast, so they'll all wear masks, so it's important in terms of how the story moves forward. They're going to be hidden, so it'll give an opportunity for people to go to the feast. We won't know who they are. Okay, this again highlights the attitude towards women and also the fact that girls had to marry very young and to men who their father selected. So again, if you're a young girl, you could write that I would not like to live in this world as I would not like my father picking who I would marry, and definitely not at 13. Okay, the Mast Feast. Okay, Capulet sends his servant Peter out with a list of names who are to be invited to the feast. Peter leaves with a list but informs the audience that he can't read, therefore has no idea who is or isn't on the list. Now, this leads to a lot of problems. So Capulet is unaware that Peter is not able to read, so he hands him a list. Okay, so I suppose if you've watched films and read books, you know this is a recipe for disaster. This is like a catalyst which will lead to further events in the play. So it's a very clever technique used by Shakespeare here, which will allow other events unfold because of this little mistake by Peter. Benvolio and Romeo walk by and Peter asks them to read the names on the list for him. Now, obviously, Peter is unaware who Benvolio and Romeo are because he works for the Capulet household and the Montagues are sworn enemies. So Benvolio and Romeo, who are both in the Montague household, walk by. So Peter asks them to read the names. So again, this, I suppose, it's a coincidence that this happens. But again, this coincidence is used as a catalyst to further the plot of the play. Romeo spots Rosaline's names, and when Peter invites them to go, providing they are not Montagues, they both agree to go. Benvolio to show Romeo beautiful women, and Romeo to see Rosaline. So it's a kind of a perfect storm here. Romeo would not have went to this feast had he not seen Rosaline's name. Benvolio couldn't care less about Rosaline. He wants to show, as he mentioned in Act 1, Scene 1, that the only way to get over a woman is to look at more beautiful women. So that's his reason for wanting to go. Now, there's a bit of dramatic irony at play here, because Peter says you can both go, provided you're not Montagues, and we in the audience know that they are Montagues, therefore Peter is unaware. So a bit of dramatic irony at play here, where the audience knows things or is privy to things that some characters on stage are not. Okay, first use of dramatic irony. Peter doesn't realise they're Montagues, but the audience does. Okay, key quotes from Act 1, Scene 2. So it's a very short scene, so we're just going to look at the key quotes. My child is yet a stranger in the world. Okay, that's a way of Capulet saying that his child... Basically, she's so young, she's like a stranger. She hasn't got to know the world that well yet. So it's a clever way of writing, and Shakespeare uses it to describe how young she is. Younger than she are happy mother's maid. Okay, so Paris replies that there are younger than her who are already mothers, and again that shows the type of culture you're dealing with here, the world you're dealing with, where girls as young as 12 and 13 were given birth, okay? But woo her, gentle Paris, get her heart. Again, and I suppose it's a redeeming feature of Capulet here, in that he wants Paris to woo Juliet. He's not going to order her to get married. He wants her to actually be in love with the man that she's going to marry. Take thou some new infection to the eye, and the rank poison of the old will die. Okay, you'll see the rhyming here. You'll see Benvolio is talking to Romeo, and he's basically saying you need something else to take your eye, and he uses an infection here. So we basically see that you need a new woman to infect your eye, and the poison of the old will die. So the poison of Rosaline will disappear if he would gaze upon a more beautiful woman that he may fall in love with. I'll go along, but to rejoice in the pleasure of mine own. So Romeo says he will go to the party, but only to stare at the one he loves. Okay, and it's important that you remember this. You see again how heartbroken and sad he is, and there's no other woman in the world except Rosaline. It's important you remember that as we move in through the scenes. Okay, so that's just a quick summary of Act 1, Scene 2. It's a very short scene, but again, it's setting up for further events down the line. There's a few catalysts there with Peter not being able to read. Benvolio and Romeo both go to the party with different intentions. So that's Act 1, Scene 2. And if you like the content, please hit like and subscribe for more videos. And also go to endasEnglishNotes.com, where you'll find great resources to help improve your grades in English. Thank you.